stream now. Hello everyone, welcome to Season 6, Round 7 of the Dev Tier around the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Today I'm joined by Ocean Lion. Oh wait.
Oggi il tempo non dovrebbe cambiare, niente pioggia.
So quickly, before we go, let's go through the driver lineup today. Reese and PIUFC in the Mercedes. X-Roll Zola is on his own in the Red Bull. Bestian is on his own in the McLaren. X-Roll Flavor joins K18 CFC. TAF Mr. Shark in the Alpine. Matty was Air in the Ferrari. Edgety 75 in the Ferrari. Dadstop Gaming and Goldmanta in the Alfa Tauri. JR Footballer and Imperium in the Alfa Romeo. TRL Senna in the Haas and Herbinator in the Williams. Any minute now we should get going into the first of 3 qualifying sessions. Nice dry quality. PIUFC very quick to retire. I'm sure the drivers will at least be happy that they have one session of dry, and by the looks of things, clear skies running as well. And the first car to be coming out will be the Haas of TRL Senna. Ocean Line, your mic is playing up a little bit. Ocean Line is closely followed by the Williams of Herbinator and the Alfa Tauri of Golminator. And no surprises, all 3 drivers are on the soft compounder tyre. There's now a few more cars decide to join them. JR Footballer, Dadstop Gaming and the Alpine of TAF Mr. Shark. Senna will be the first one to start his lap, so he'll be the one setting the benchmark for Q1. Hoping that it will be good enough ideally to see him through on just the one set of tyres on the one lap. Nicely abusing the apex at turn 1 as you'd love to see. Up through turn 2, barely a corner, into the uphill braking zone of turn 3, meaning you can naturally brake a little bit later. Tricky traction zone though on the exit, which Senna seems to get down quite well. on the run into turn 4, braking at just about the 100-meter board. Very tricky traction zone here as well. Into turn 5, long left-hander, followed by another long left-hand at the end of sector 2. His time is a 44.7. And now coming in to the the second fastest corner on the track, the penultimate corner. 2 downshifts, flick it in, get it opened up. Now last corner, another gear shift down, open up DRS to the line. It's a 104.521. Oh, and Goldminator takes too much inside curb and takes a nice trip into the gravel. As far football invalidates in that section as well. Unlucky for those 2 drivers so far. This means the next driver to set a lap will be Dadstock Gaming. Rounds the final corner, puts the power down nicely, doesn't risk running too wide to the line. It's a 106.1. So far quite a gap from TRO to the rest of the grid, but I'm sure we'll see the times drop. Hedgety now around the final corner as well. 105.4, good enough for P2 provisionally. Yeah, Footballer, I believe, is the next car to set a lap. As he comes into the fast yet tricky right-hander. Double right-hander to finish off the lap. Running a little bit wide at the last corner. What's it going to be? A 105.0. So 5/10 off P1 man. K18, P2 now with a 104.7. And is that Mr. Shark? That is not a competitive time, it's invalid. Oh, Senna beating his own time, coming down to a 104.3. Now 4/10 clear of the P2 man in K18. Reese now to the line, 105.1. Let's watch Beeston is on a slow lap. Mr. Shark now coming to the end of his lap. It is, as he comes out of the last corner, opens up the big rear wing, 105.9. Beeston now into P8 on the mediums with a 108.7. As Footballer backs out of his lap at turn 3. The next fast car on lap, I do believe, is the Alpine. Yes, he uses 4/10 up on his time. Would pick him up a position or two, which is always good in this early qualifying session. So 105.4. Good enough. P6 it is. Only a couple hundreds behind the Ferrari of Egety. Galminator finishes his first lap 106.5. Good enough P8 in Q1. Of course, everyone goes through no matter what lap times you do. So it's not important to do a quick lap at the moment. That'll come later on in the session. Flavor now rounds the final two corners to finish his benchmark lap in Q1 105.7 on medium tyres. Very good lap considering he's on the mediums. Imperium's first lap puts him P11 on a 106.6. First time Exer Zola has come out on track, the only driver yet to complete a lap. Footballer comes to line, can he improve? No, he cannot. He has done 6 laps now on those softs, so you can imagine there's quite a bit of wear on them. Whether he's got enough to save and go again, we shall find out at the end of this lap. Oh, that's a big snap of oversteer from Rees at turn 1. Almost losing it, but just managing to keep it out of the barrier. Let's go on board with Exer Zola for the rest of this lap. 45.3 middle sector. This is very good from him so far in the lap. Rounding now the last 2 corners. This is going to be a 105.2. Good enough P7 as it stands. Rees looks to be... he's on a slow lap actually. Beastia now retiring in the pits, I do believe. Galminator, the only driver currently on a lap, I believe, comes to the end of sector 2. His middle sector split is a 46.3. So about a second down on the likes of XRL Zola, which would not improve him as it stands. It would take a lot more exit curb at the last corner than a lot of drivers. He only improves by half a tenth. Not good enough to improve his position, however. .7 from Herbinator at the end of sector 2. He's a couple tenths up. Would be good enough to put him just in, well, into P2 as it would stand. Running a bit wide at the penultimate corner and unfortunately validating at the last corner. Would have been enough. Actually, he wouldn't have improved his position, although I do believe he lifted off. Mr. Shark, a couple hundredths up on his own lap. Not enough to improve his position. Nonetheless, still an improvement. A lot of drivers running very wide at the penultimate turn, whether that just be naturally induced understeer or through carrying too much speed into the corner, or whether it just be by driver mistake. Middle sector, 45.1 from Footballer, 2 tenths down on his own lap, and off the pace of, well, Senna, who doesn't look to be coming out again. That's a blatant corner cut from Footballer. No idea what he was thinking, trying to get away with that. Herbinator looks to be going for not one last push lap, actually, surprisingly, despite not pitting. As the majority of the drivers begin to retire from the session, as they are all safely through to the next part of qualifying. Many of these drivers trying to just use one set of tyres, perhaps getting used to just running on a little bit more fuel, a little bit more worn tyres. as he does a lovely backflip. Oh, I think that did unfortunately impede Mr. Shark's lap. Very unfortunate for Mr. Shark. However, on the bright side, he is safely into Q2. So going the order in the Q1 session, TRL Senna, P1 by over 4/10 of a second to K18. So TRL Senna P1, K18 P2 in the Aston, Herbinator P3 for Williams, Reese P4 for Mercedes, Egerty P5 for Ferrari, Lazola P6 for Red Bull, Mr. Shark P7 for Alpine, Dadstop Gaming P8 for AlphaTauri, Flavor P9 for Aston Martin, and Imperium P10 for Alfa Romeo.
Double game 1 minute 05.7. Then you got 18 CFC 1 minute 04.4 mediums. Then you got Gerald Sanders 1 minute 047 also mediums. Terminator set 1 minute 04.91. Matty was 1 minute 04.525. Is the Scalminator. Oh, and rain is starting to fall actually. So you're getting your laps now, or a bit of chance.
yeah, any driver that came out later on in the session may struggle a little bit from the weather and the changing conditions. Skelmanator going into P7 with a 105.8, and any driver who invalidated their first run also slightly on the back foot. Like Zola, for instance, who was invalidated 2 laps, second of which was of 107.4. So the track will only get worse from here, as Flavor pops himself up into P5 on a 105.5. Signs that the track isn't rapidly deteriorating. Zola now coming around the first of the double left-handers. 45.5 middle sector. As he comes to the line now, what's it going to be? A 105.7, which is enough for P8 as he finally gets a lap in. Yeah, the track is certainly beginning to deteriorate now, as we're seeing drivers not really improving on their laps. Miss Shark is going to be a 106.6, the slowest time we've seen in qualifying so far, and not good enough to see him through into Q3. Yeah, Zola's 1.4 seconds down on his time. Interestingly, Mr. Shark is improving. He's up by 0.2 of a second, but he does need around about 0.8 of a second to see him through into Q3. Oh, and that's a spin from Mr. Shark, meaning he won't be able to complete a lap good enough for him to get into Q2. Imperium invalidated at the last corner and nearly losing the car at turn 1. Reese also having invalidated. It's unlikely now that he'll be able to set a time good enough for Q3. Could
Imperium spawn round. I think he's lost his front wing. Can't really see from that camera angle.
Showing just how treacherous these conditions really are.
Yeah, and there's a Ferrari spawn as well. He's lost an end plate. Ferrari.
Rain is really beginning to set in this late part of qualifying, as you can now see water starting to set on the track. Zola has come out on a set of soft compound tyres, believing that he can improve on his 105.7. Ooh, Did Reese spin? It did look like Reese just spun. I think we already have our top 10 drivers, the front 3 of whom are all on the medium compound tyre. Yep, Zola's not on a quick lap. K18 CFC retiring from the session, and rightfully so. 1:04.4 was a very strong time for the medium compound tyre. Zola putting on a set of intermediates, getting perhaps a little bit of practice for Q3. He is indeed. Now, I don't think Imperium realises that if he can just set a lap, he will jump ahead of PRUFC, as DRS has now been disabled for perfectly viable reason. Track is now looking very wet. Now on the intermediates we are looking to see times of, I'd say a low 10 is a good intermediate lap. As Zola invalidates his first lap. Beastian also on track, just trying to warm up to these cold conditions. Imperium now to start his first lap of Q2. Will not be enough to see him through into Q3, but will be enough to put him ahead of PRUFC. Oh, slippy on the exit of 1. It is a very moist track. Yes, I agree. A lot of wheel spin from Imperium off of the exit of turn 3. With logical sense as well, being that it's the hardest traction zone on the circuit, being from the lowest speed. I do think we will be seeing the pole time of around a low 10, high 11, a high 10, low 11 zone. As now Imperium does his first lap of a 1:14.3. Let's see what Zola can do in the early stages of these intermediate conditions. Remembering that these conditions are only to get worse. Unless of course it dries up by the end of Q3. Now yes, moist is a very wonderful word. For many reasons. A lot of people don't like the word moist. Q2 now draws to a close. Your top 10 are K18, Matty, Senna, Herbinator, Flavor, Edgety, Dadstop Gaming, Zola, Beastian and Gulminator. I think it might be a case in Q3 if whoever can do their lap first gets pole position.
007, 1 minute 07, 428. Off, so it's right up to 2. And there's a Ferrari spawn diggity.
Sorry, my mic was muted that whole time. That's my bad. Senna to the top now with a 1:05.9. Flavor very close behind with a 1:06.3. The track will be getting ever quicker throughout the session, as Maxi now does a 1:06.4. So the session does look like whoever can get the track in the best window will get pole position. And I'm not sure about you, but my vote for pole definitely goes to TRL Senna, as he's been very quick across all three qualifying, both qualifying sessions so far. And there's only real challenger is in fact that man there who's just gone to P1, K18 in the Aston Martin with a 1:05.0. So here comes XRL Flavor now. Oh, he's pitting. Matty, 8/10 up on his time. That would be good enough for P2, however I imagine he's got a lot of time to find in the last sector. Oh, that's unlucky as invalidates. What time would it have been? A 1:05.1. Very unfortunate. That's Stop Gaming now coming around the last two corners. Has a time of a 1:05.7, good enough for P2 as it stands. And now here comes his teammate Galminator, 1:05.9. So it's an AlphaTauri 2-3 for now. Here comes the Red Bull of XRL Zola. Round the last corner. What time's it going to be? It's going to be a 1:05.2. Good enough for P2. Herbernator now, 44.8 middle sector. That is reminiscent of what we were seeing at the start of Q2. So perhaps this could be a new P1. Provisional pole position for Herbernator. Yes, it is. 1:04.863. First driver to get into the fours in this session, and Beastian just finished the lap. 1:06.284. Senna has already come to track. The track is now looking near enough dry. However, there might still be a few tenths in it. Might still be a slightly moist track. Ooh, it's a little snapper of oversteer for TRL Senna as he goes around the penultimate corner now to begin his second set of laps, and he invalidates at the first apex. Very unlucky. Beastian now on a lap, as he did just improve up to a 1:05.832. Good enough for provisional 5th. He is now, however, 2/10 down at the end of the first sector and has run deep at turn 3. Zola has just jumped up into P2, no surprises there. And is he going for a second flying lap? Probably. No. He is not in fact going for another flying lap. I'm wondering why Edgerty is on the medium compound tyre. Because I don't think he has time to get all the way around pit and then do an outlap again. Very peculiar. And Zola has now run out of fuel. TL Senna has fallen down the order, however he is now on a flying lap. What's it going to be? 44.6, 1.2 seconds up on his time would put him P1 currently. A lot of time to find in the last two corners for the Haas driver as he rounds the final corner, opens up the DRS to the line. What's it going to be? It's a 104.357. Quickest time we've seen so far from arguably one of the quickest drivers here. Oh, as funny enough, K18 immediately goes and beats it with a 104.298. Now the question is, can any drivers respond to that lap? I do not think Senna can, as he does not have the fuel. Matti goes P3 with a 104.4. Does not look like Zola Golminator or Dadstop Game will be coming out again to do another lap, although that is a Red Bull coming out of the pit lane now. Ride on board with flavour for this lap, his likely final lap of the session. Actually, never mind, he does have a lap to do 2 more. Uphill braking into turn 3, which leads into a very long uphill traction zone. All goes slightly deep into turn 3. Now on the run down into turn 4, his mistake of the exit of 3 will carry all the way downhill. Downhill braking now into turn 4. Now lining it up on the right, braking it just after 50 meters, turning in, hooking that apex up nicely, braking just as the curb ends on the right there. Trying not to run out too wide, unlike Flavor did there. Unlucky, that's his final lap time deleted. Zola has actually come out again for one last punch at pole. Can Zola respond to K18's 104.2? We'll find out in about 50 seconds time. He now rounds the hairpin of turn 3. Opens up DRS for his final time in qualifying. Into turn 4, downhill braking, downhill exit. Straight into turn 5 and then into turn number 6, the first of a pair of left-handers. Want to use as much exit curb as you can without running fully off the track. Does that nicely. Into turn 7, seems to hook it up. Through 8 into the fastest corner on the circuit, turn number 9. Doesn't use too much curb on the exit, and perhaps not wanting to risk too much to the line. What's it going to be? It's a 104.8, only good enough for P4. So your starting grid for this race will be K18 CFC in the Aston Martin, TRL Senna in the Haas, very close behind, only 600ths of a second. Then closely behind them is Matti in the Ferrari, Zola in the Red Bull, Urbanator in the Williams, Beastian in the McLaren, Flavor in the Aston Martin, Galminator in the AlphaTauri, Dadstop Gaming in the other AlphaTauri, and Edgety in the Ferrari. So Ocean, after watching qualifying and how close the front three were together, who is your bids on to win this race? Well, unfortunately, it looks like Ocean isn't currently with his Xbox controller and headset. However, my bids are on... I feel like Matty could win it, despite the fact that he wasn't... He was kind of overlooked in the first two qualifying sessions, at least by me. So perhaps he can pull out something in the race, saving something for the race maybe. We'll find out in 36 laps time. as the drivers all get ready to go. Gun it for turn 1. Who will come out on top in 36 laps time? Well, it won't be decided at turn 1, but it could very well be ended at turn 1. As now the 5 red lights come on, and it's 5 lights out, and away we go. Senna gets off the start, similar to K18 and Matty. However, it does look like Zola gets overtaken by Herbinator, who has actually jumped past Matty as well for P3 now. Herbinator looking to go around the outside of TRL Senna at turn 3. It's a bold attempt, but he holds it around the outside, and now he's going to try send it down the inside into turn number 4, slightly later on the right descent, not quite enough to make the move stick. Meanwhile, in P12, Reese and TAF Mr. Shark are going side by side through turn number 6, and Reese successfully manages to hold off Mr. Shark for the time being.
Doesn't make the move stick. That's it. It will get past it. No, he won't. It's gone past by TF and Spark. Wow. Okay.
Meanwhile, just up the road, the other Mercedes and AlphaTauri are fighting for P8. And at the moment, it does look like PRUFC has gotten the edge on Gulminator. After having a qualifying ban and already being P8, this race is going as well as it could for PRUFC. Oh, that is Reese going very slow on the apex, perhaps having to pit for damage. Yes, he does have to pit. No DRS enabled until just now. That means Mr. Shark will get DRS on Dash Stop Game going into turn 3. As his big rear wing opens up, will Footballer be able to get past Dash Stop Game as well? Well, we don't know about that, but it does look like he's going to try and go for a move on that Mr. Shark, as there is a little bit of contact which forces Dash Stop Game wide. As now Mr. Shark has lost out and fallen down to P13. Footballer and Imperium, the AlphaTauri duo, up to P11 and 12. So far looks like a fairly clean race. Fairly clean lap 1, should I say. There's still 30. Oh, Senna has already got a 3-second time penalty. Could come proving crucial at the end of the race.
UFC games past Axel Flavor and Culminator just gone past LV6 Expedition before turn 3. Yeah, mistakenly got your football right on the back of that game. Owens up at the top, right between Senna and K18 CFC. That's what Terminator. I was here in that as well, and TAF Mr. Shark.
Senna is able to follow quite nicely on the back of K18, and as he does I imagine, pick up a warning for that little incident in the last corner. He's going to try and go for the move, but no, backs out, decides to wait and get DRS up into turn 3. He does now have a very good run on K18. He does overtake him going into turn number 3. However, K18 is able to follow nicely on the exit of the corner, and he has DRS, meaning he might be able to re-overtake Senna going into turn number 4. They're going to go into turn number 4 side by side. Just enough room is left on the apex and the exit by both drivers. They're still still side by side going to turn number 6, sorry, but K18 is ahead by turn number 8. Senna looks like it might try and go for it into turn number 9, doesn't. Waiting for that DRS, as it looks like, that's an Alpha Tauri of Goldmanator who has spun around. Unfortunate for him. However, let's go back to this battle at the front. Senna, once again, just waiting for DRS down this part of the track. Perhaps this time he won't go for the move into turn number 3, but instead wait for DRS into turn number 4. He does just that. However, he's just close enough to send it down the inside. Does he get DRS? Yes, he does still have DRS. Surely this means he'll be ahead going to turn 4. He is. Is Herbinator going to try and look for a move on Katie? Not quite close enough. These drivers are all within 6/10 of each other. This is looking very much to be perhaps perhaps potentially a four-way battle for the win.
Matty is Danny inside of Turbinator into turn 1, just backs out of it.
K18 isn't actually using DRS going into turn 3, wanting to wait for it off of this corner as Senna gets a little bit squirmy on the exit. That'll give KFC the confidence that he can in fact get past Senna going into turn 4. He's going to try it around the outside. Does he make it stick? Oh yes, he does, just about. Very good move from K18 around the outside at turn number 4. However, it's very much not over as these two drivers have been sticking with each other very closely throughout the race so far. Ooh, Senna touched the curb a little bit and nearly loses the back end. And we've seen a number of times at that penultimate corner from the Haas driver, as Matty looks to maybe try and go down the inside of Herbinator into turn 1, but instead just runs deep instead, causing him to lose a lot more time than he gained. Senna did get the DRS there. I imagine that was from letting K18 go just before the corner, allowing him to get DRS into turn 3. However, going into turn number 4, is K18 able to try the same move? No, he isn't. He's not quite close. So as Goldmanator retires at turn 3, that is going to bring out the full course safety car, perhaps meaning that some of the soft runners could pit to mediums and go to the end of the race. Meanwhile, PRUFC has been slowly sneaking up the order, now in P6 from a very good back of the grid start. He's now up 7 places along with JR Footballer. The biggest losers so far of this race being Beastian and Mr. Shark, both down 3 positions. So we'll bunch the pack back up. Did anyone pit? I wasn't quite paying attention. Let's just get tyres back up. Yes, actually, Edgety did not pit. PIUFC, Flavour, Beastion, all pitting for mediums. Imperium going for the hard compounded tyre. Not the worst compounded tyre, however, will be hard to warm up at the end of the safety car period. And recent EF, Mr. Shark, having to already have made their pit stops due to damage earlier in the race. Oh, that is Edgety who's pitting for fresh medium tyres. He will come out just ahead of Imperium, I believe. Yeah, comfortably ahead of Imperium. So he will drop back down to P11. As now the last car of Mr. Shark catches up to the safety car queue, perhaps meaning that the safety car will indeed pit this lap as opposed to continue on for another lap. Yeah, he's now caught up to the back of the queue and does not have to worry about warming up his tyres, as they would be nice warm, as he's been going flat out for the last couple of laps, as opposed to everyone else has been stuck behind the safety car. So Senna has decided to go now, gets a little wiggle on the exit of the last corner, able to just stay ahead of K18 going into turn number 1. Positions down the grid seem to remain fairly uniform. Oh, that's Imperium who's run wide, conceding the position to Rees and perhaps even Mr. Shark as well. Yes, it does. Senna now with a 6/10 advantage over K18. The order beginning already to split up. Senna coming around the final corner now, only a 4/10 gap this time. However, they have managed to break DRS to Herbinator, which could prove crucial in the latter stages of the race. However, we could be seeing Herbinator very soon into pit, because he is one of 2 drivers yet to pit still on the soft compound tyres. PIUFC is now right on the back of JR Fupua, perhaps wanting to get past him in the next lap or so. That's a Mercedes going slow in the back. I believe it was Reese. Yes, Reese has got damage. He's now coming into the pits along with Edgerty. Back on board with the fight for P1. It's very close to the gap, less than 0.3 of a second now. Oh, Herbinator and Matty are battling currently for P3, final podium position. Matty is going to get past Herbinator now on his dying softs. He'll be wanting to get in and off of those tyres as soon as he can. However, he's going to try and come back at Matty, trying to get maybe a switch back through turn 6. And now he just has to slot in single file through 7 and 8. Senna there, very nearly out of the DRS of K18, breaking slipstream to try and keep extending his advantage to K18. Should he be able to extend it, which is now over a second, however I doubt it should be. JR Footballer has retired from the session. That has brought out yet another safety car. Does look like he just lost it on the exit of the corner.
Just a bit of a monster.
So that brings out yet another safety car, perhaps meaning that drivers such as, well, Herbinator has already pitted, and meaning that Dad Stop Gaming could probably get away with making his pit stop now as well. This isn't very good, however, for the medium runners, due to the fact that they would have to stay out, and I would say PRUFC is in a very good position right now, being the driver on the youngest mediums in the top 10 other than Herbinator, who has just pitted. Oh, it does look like Senna, however, has now come into the pits for another set of mediums. Interesting. So that means Zola inherits P3, Matty inherits P2, and K18 inherits P1. And now the interesting prospect is that Senna will have to make another pit stop, because he's on the medium tyre. Whether it was a mistake or intentional, it will potentially cost him a shot at the race win. Reese is pitting yet again, interestingly. Oh, and Reese is retired in the pit lane. Peculiar, especially considering that is against the rules of XRL. Urbanator started on the softs, didn't he? Yeah, no, because he was the only one on the softs in the top 10. He won't need to pit again. could perhaps be seeing the safety car come in this lap. Yep, there we go, there's the call from race control that the safety car will indeed be coming in at the end of this lap. K18 leads Matty, leads Zola, who then leads PRUFC, who is on a relatively new set of mediums. Then follows Beastian and Senna, who is pitted for new mediums. When will K18 pull the trigger? When will he let the field go? I suspect, yeah, he's gone now, going into the last corner. He's got a very nice gap, very healthy gap to Matty. However, the same can't be said for Matty, as he's got extra, he's got a breathing down his neck. 0.3 of a second now. Less than 0.3 now, as he maybe going to try and go for a move into turn 3. No, he's going to back off slightly. PRUFC looking to try and make the move on Zola. Zola closes the door very aggressively on PRUFC. PRUFC now only a matter of tenths behind Zola, keen to get past Tears. Meanwhile, Senna is just sitting back, waiting for someone perhaps to make a mistake, allowing him to get back up on par with the leaders of K18 and Matty. Zola lets them go, interestingly, or I think he made a mistake there, which would explain why he lost the positions. Now Snake and PRUFC are going side by side. Senna, sorry, not Snake. So Senna now up into P3, back on par with the two leaders. But he has a 15 lap tyre advantage, which should prove crucial in this race. He didn't have the pace to simply get out of the DRS of K18, however he might be able to now that he's got the fresh rubber. Flavor spinning at turn 3, dropping to P11, only ahead of the Williams of Herbenetter. Senna now is right on the back of Matty. Dummies going into the last corner. He's very close still through the last two corners, only less than 0.3 of a second. He will have DRS on Matty, however Matty will have DRS on K18. Senna getting ever closer to the back of the Ferrari. However, it does look like the Ferrari does have the advantage going into turn 3 this time around. PRUFC, meanwhile, has now become the person sitting at the back of the train, followed by Beastian, who is in a very good position. Meanwhile, Zola has fallen down the order into P6. His old medium's not working very nicely for him, unlike Matty and K18, who are P1 and 3 respectively. Oh, Senna did get past Matty, sorry I didn't catch that. Now it's just him versus K18, who will presumably just close the DRS and wait for the run into turn 3 to overtake K18, as he does run a little bit wide of turn 1. One thing to remember, that he does have a penalty of 3 seconds, so should the driver behind him be within 3 seconds and not have a penalty themselves, they will receive the position. Does look like K18 is trying to come back at Senna. Was there a little bit of contact there? Maybe, I don't know. However, Senna is able to just about keep the position for now. However, PRUFC has closed into the back of Matty. So perhaps he's looking now to try and make a move on the Ferrari going into turn 1, knowing that he will still have the DRS on. Oh no, Matty has in fact come into the pits along with K18. I imagine they will both be boxing for fresh softs, of which Senna would still have to use. So that means Senna inherits the race lead from PRUFC. Zola now, the only driver yet to pit on his 20-lap-old mediums, is having to try and defend from Mr. Shark on his 16-lap-old hards. Mr. Shark does have DRS going into turn 4. Doesn't quite have enough room to pull alongside the Red Bull. So now K18 and Matty both on fresh softs, as Senna, your race leader, has spun, and he's got no front wing, meaning that he will fall straight to the back of the grid and have to pit, whilst also being overtaken directly by his rivals as he's on the effective racing line. Now PRUFC inherits the race lead, whilst he doesn't have to make another pit stop. 14 laps. What's the gap to K18? 15 seconds. If he can just not lose a second a lap to K18 and Matty, he may well have this race in the bag. That only being if Bestian doesn't get within 3 seconds of PIFC due to his time penalty. Zola making a little bit of mistake off the exit of 7, giving Mr. Shark a look into turn number. Oh no, Zola's coming into the pits, presumably for a set of softs at this point in the race, meaning he will drop relatively far down the order, promoting Mr. Shark up into P3 on his old hards. However, with a hungry Dad Stop Gaming right behind him, he will want to be dispatched of the Alpine as soon as he can, due to having newer tyres. However, DRS isn't quite enough for him on this occasion. Mr. Shark is running less ERS than Dadstop Gaming, who has, well, 100% as it stood going into turn number 4. So he has a very big ERS advantage, well, a whole battery advantage, roughly. I believe it's about 100 horsepower advantage over Mr. Shark if he decides to enable his battery, as Mr. Shark runs wide, gets himself another 3-second time penalty, and that's Tyrrell Senna out of the... Did he retire? He retired on track. Did he retire on track? That very much looks like he retired on track. Or he retired deliberately. How do you lose it there? I'll never know. Yeah, Dadstop Gaming now past the Alpine FTF. Mr. Shark, our Flavor and Herbinator are battling as it stands. Or was battling. Now Flavor's going to fall behind Zola, who is on fresh soft tyres. K18 has closed up 4 seconds almost up to the back of Mr. Shark, who has just lost the position to Edgerty, who is now, TF Mr. Shark is now in fact pitting. This would be perfect for K18, as he's now on fresh softs with no one to give DRS to Edgerty, meaning he can just cruise past the Ferrari and up into P3, back onto the podium now for K18. PIOC has pitted for fresh mediums, so that means that Beastian now inherits the lead of the race. It does look like there's a bit of cloud cover coming over, and whether that means there's rain or not on the way, we shall have to wait and see. K18 only apologies. K18 only on 3-lap old softs versus Dadstop's Gaming 9-lap old mediums and Beastian's 15-lap old mediums. Dadstop Gaming now pits, I imagine, for fresh softs, meaning that K18 inherits P2 and gives him clean road up to the back of Beastian. Dragging, following closely behind is Matty.
PIOC got by and Imperium on the XL come on. But Thor's making that inside of Magnetic P3. Making a flight backward. Almost loses it. It is getting dark now.
Yes, it is indeed. Perhaps bringing some rain with them, that would spice up this race. Because that would mean everyone would have to pit again, presumably, should it rain heavy enough. As now Imperium and Edgerty are both pitting. I don't think rain is on the way, otherwise I have a feeling that they would not have in fact pitted. K18 now right on the diffuser of the McLaren ahead of him. He will have DRS going into turn 1, and should he not choose to overtake but to get the DRS, he will have the DRS going into turn number 3. Yeah, he opts not to even open his DRS and to instead get him on the run into turn number 3. Oh, that's a very big mistake from K18. He did well to catch it and not lose it. However, it does mean that he might not be able to get past Beastian on this lap unless he uses, well, he does have 60% battery, so it'll be close. Does Beastian doesn't decide to use his battery, he has very minimal battery left, and it does look like, yep, K18 up into P1 on fresh softs. This looks like his race to lose at the moment, and with Matty following very closely behind him, only a number of seconds. Matty chooses once again to not overtake into turn 1, as that is a Ferrari of Edgerty who was spun at turn number 6. Very unfortunate considering he just pitted for fresh softs. His only hope of points now is to perhaps try, well, he might still get 1 point Unfortunate for the Ferrari driver. However, his teammate up in P2 has gotten past the McLaren, now has his sights set on trying to get past K18 on track. Even if he will lose the position at the end due to his penalty, he will try his best. Oh, and he's off, and he's lost his front wing, meaning he will have to pit again this lap. Very unfortunate for the Ferrari driver. Oh, and that's spinning Williams of Herbinator. He is now on the racing line. He does have to be careful not to block. Oh, he did block Mr. Shark there. Not sure if he so much blocked Dad Stop Gaming, but that was an unsafe rejoin. Oh well, he caused TAF Mr. Shark to go off the track.
I had to avoid him. That's and myself in shares.
Oh, Mr. Shark very close to the back of Dad Stop Gaming now. He's on 4-lap-old soft versus Dad Stop Gaming's 3-lap-old medium, so he should theoretically have a pace advantage over him for the time being. However, he does have 6 more seconds of time penalties than Dad Stop Gaming, meaning that he will also likely lose the position to Herbinator should he not be able to dispatch of the AlphaTauri within the closing laps of the race. However, I don't see it as a challenge really due to his tyre advantage. Does he try and go for moving turn 1? No, he doesn't. However, turn 3 seems to be the most prominent overtaking opportunity on the circuit. Yet it looks like he's a little too far back to go for a dive bomb on Dead Stop Gaming. He'll need a good run off of turn 3 to have a look into turn 4. Can he get the traction he needs off turn 3? No, he can't. Dead Stop Gaming with very good traction. It keeps him safe from the attack of Mr. Shark. TF Mr. Shark will get DRS again, though whether he will be able to make the move on this lap is another story, as it does appear quite tricky to pass the AlphaTauri driver at the moment. He's going to go for a move into turn 1, not quite leaving just enough space for Dad Stop Gaming. However, he's very close, although he does rev out in gear 4 a little too much, meaning he would have lost a little bit of time. However, he's able to pass Dad Stop Gaming. Oh, Dad Stop Gaming is very late on the brakes, nearly spinning Mr. Shark. However, is able to maintain the position. Herbinator now is getting ever closer to the back of Mr. Shark. Matty has also oh yeah, he pitted for his damage, hasn't he? That's apologies. Mr. Shark with another time penalty. That will mean he potentially loses the position even to the likes of Imperium. I think the gap is just a little bit too big at the moment. However, if Imperium can close in on Mr. Shark, he will gain the position. PRUFC now very close to the back of Beastian. However, PIFC does have a 3-second time penalty, so he's got effectively 2 laps to pull away by 3 seconds. Now with his tyre advantage, he might be able to eke it out. It's going to be very close come the checkered flag. Now easily past Beastian, well before the regging zone. Now can he pull away by the 3 seconds that he needs to secure P2 in this race? Mr. Shark still not able to get past Dad Stop Gaming, as Mr. Shark nearly loses the back end on the exit of turn number 3. Now coming down into the hairpin, he is almost a second behind Dad Stop Gaming, meaning that he's nearly out of the DRS of Dad Stop Gaming, which would just be disastrous for his race. Mr. Shark not going to go for it again on this lap. Can he get a good exit off turn 1? No, Dad Stop Gaming just seems to have an advantage on the traction over the Alpine, which means he's stuck behind. The Alpine is stuck behind him for now, as he's getting a lot less wheel spin than Mr. Shark, which is unfortunate for Mr. Shark, because it means he's going to lose the position to the likes of Herbinator. Oh, and Mr. Shark goes into the back of Dad Stop Gaming. Don't think it gave him damage, but it does mean he is now within the clutches of Herbinator, who could perhaps slow him down enough to get Imperium into P8. Oh, who is that? That's Exoral Flavor, who is very close to being lapped by his teammate. Zola now has caught up to the back of Beastian, but he has no ERS saved to make the overtake. However, he has a 3-second time penalty as it is. He may well still try and go for the move going into turn number 4. Both running very low on ERS. Yes, he does. Down the inside. Very nice. Solar is up into P3. However, he will lose the penalty. Lose the position. Sorry, at the end of the race, as K18 now comes to the checkered flag to win the Austrian Grand Prix, 10.6 seconds ahead of the next car. It was a very, very good drive from K18. It was unfortunate that TRL Senna crashed out earlier on, meaning he didn't have any other real competition after Matty and Senna spun. PIFC comes home in 2nd, Beastie in 3rd, Zola in 4th, Dad Stop Gaming in 5th, Herbinator in 6th, Matty in 7th, Mr. Shark in 8th. Imperium comes around the final corner now to finish 9th. Edgety will finish in 10th position, picking up the final point, and Extra Flavor now coming into the penultimate corner will take home P11 for the Aston Martin team. Well, what did you think of that race? It looked like there was always a battle going on, despite the fact the field being spread out relatively largely by the checkered flag. There was still that little battle between Dad Stop Gaming and TEF Mr. Shark, who did end up finishing in 8th position because of his time penalties. So the order at the end of the race is K18 started from pole, finished with the fastest lap in 1st place, very well done to him. PRUFC in 2nd for Mercedes after starting P13 with a qualifying ban. Then comes the McLaren of Bestian to round off the podium, very well done to him after starting in P6. Zola finished where he started after only making 1 stop very late on in the race compared to the other drivers. Dad Stop Gaming finishing 5th for AlphaTauri, Herbnator in 6th for Williams. And your DNFers for the race are Gulminator, Footballer, Reese and Senna. I'd like to thank you all for watching the race today. It was a race full of overtakes, not necessarily action. There was a couple safety cars to spice it up. Yeah, thank you for watching. I've been Veloce. I've been joined by Ocean Lion.